Welcome in, everybody. We've got JB back for another live CM match. He's going to be critiquing what I did right and wrong and giving me advice so that you can all learn too from his boundless wisdom.
I don't know about that. I'll do my best here. So we're on to day 5 here. So the first couple of days, so we looked at in the first couple of videos, we had a fire on fire matchup. Last time we looked at a fire on earth matchup where King Bradley just popped off. And it looks like today we have another matchup of fire versus earth. We have Mysidia here versus Sagacious. Sagacious is flashing that Queen Macherie. So let's take a look at the match here today. This is a day 5 for Mysidia here in CM. So let's see. Maybe he's feeling a little bit more comfortable with the team here today. So when you see that Queen Macherie, you see the high magic and high. Kind of, what are your thoughts going into the battle when you see the lineups here?
So I definitely think to myself, okay, this is a team that has both a damage type that will kind of rip through me with Queen Macherie, like she can do quite a bit of damage because she has that magic type. But the other thing is that she probably has a heal on one of her sub jobs, right? Like whichever one she's using, she's got a healing potential. Slime's got heal and got raise, and then Bradley. Well, we all know if we watched the last video what I know about Bradley.
So one thing you know is that you don't need to worry about with this team is that they're unless they use a TMR, they're not going to have haste, and they're not going to have keen blade or any kind of quicken here with this team. So you know that you have the advantage, at least from like a turn economy standpoint, or at least you know that's something that you can leverage on your team that they can't. Obviously, Bradley does have that CT potential that you'll need to watch out for with some of his attacks, but at least you're not going to have to worry about things like Keen Blade and Quicken that can kind of quickly get their turns rolling back around again.
That's an absolutely awesome point because I did not consider that.
So that's actually pretty big, like in terms of how aggressive you can play, like with your ranges, how far forward you go, like when you know that they potentially can't get that double turn on you really quickly, and that's a situation where you can potentially play more aggressive there. So this is good. So you start kind of scanning the stats here. You can kind of see very high attack value, good agility here for Bradley. Again, though, we don't look at the vision cards there, so you can see in the bottom corner. It's kind of hidden by the video marker here, but down in the bottom left, party abilities, you can check the vision cards, see what they're working with. Are they using rainbow cards, or are they using earth cards, job cards? You can kind of get some intel there on the team. You can also take a look at like the resistance display up here as well. See if there's vulnerability there to any status effects. Obviously, Seymour on your team, that's kind of one of the big things that he's bringing to give you value. You can check if he's weak to charm, or I believe Seymour also has like slow and maybe even
sleep.
Like and sleep. Yeah. So those are kind of things that you can look at there. Can take a look at his faith as well, rocking that 50 faith. See how maybe. What percentage of those statuses are going to be? So again, now, much better kind of initial position and turns here.
Right, so and also you might be noticing people that we're playing in top. We're not playing in top down right now. This is for you. This is after some feedback on my a post that I did. People really have a hard time engaging with the content when it's in top down. So when you play, we recommend you usually play in top down. I am actively choosing not to try to have a better YouTube experience.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't play this way because it totally messes with, or at least makes it more difficult to kind of get a gauge of exactly how much range we're looking at in terms of how far you are away from the enemy. But certainly I agree, it does look nicer. So so this was a very interesting thing that happens here. You kind of just decide to do nothing there with kind of just decide to do nothing here with Seymour. You still had time left too. You had about 13 seconds there. kind of insight to what you were thinking there.
I think, and again, this sounds so dumb, right? But I really do play a lot by feel. And so while someone might think about where everybody's CT was at, and can I get Seymour set up to take a turn faster to then maybe charm or Keenblade or whatever it is. Like, and I just kind of thought like, you know what? I'm never attacking with him for like most matches. And at the end of the day, I don't think I would do it again, but it was just like, oh, I'm going to see how his turn comes up. And once Hio gets up in the mix, maybe we can set something up here, but it really no decision making was made there.
Okay. Yeah. But that's one thing that kind of I immediately noticed. You kind of looks like you think about maybe using a buff there, but then you just pass the turn. Obviously that's going to be a little bit tough for your AP, right? You're not going to be able to generate any AP. You do gain some CT by doing that. You save 20 CT. So one thing I will say here though is that you do have piggybacking on what I was saying there earlier with him not having Quicken or Keenblade. This is a key opportunity where you can even push forward and be a bit more aggressive here with your positioning, put it on him to kind of have to react to, maybe Seymour being potentially in range on his next turn. So you have more mobility than he does. He only has 3 movement on those units. So, Seymour has that 4 movement. It's one thing that you can kind of take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's the only match I ever did that with the buff thing. But I also was thinking like, oh, I got to keep him close to potentially Keenblade, but I guess I could always move him back if I needed to, or, time it when Hio comes forward. So I definitely was, feeling more comfortable with this team, but I was still like, oh, I've got to stay within, or maybe that was why I remember I kept him in for like, it was a buffing. It was to be able to apply buffs is why I thought, oh, I'll have to keep him close.
So, I mean, don't feel like you always have to sit there either and buff up. Like you can kind of be moving and buffing at the same time and kind of move as a unit. If you do want to kind of have everybody taking advantage of those buffs, or you could just have the 2 frontline units move up. Like we said earlier, Minwoo doesn't necessarily need the Keenblade. It's more of a nice to have for her.
Mm-hmm.
She's already sitting in place and getting that 20 CT. She already has haste up. Her turns are coming back around really quickly. It's more important to use that Keenblade in an aggressive position where you can kind of quickly use that to catapult yourself forward and pounce on the enemy.
So now I'm using top down purely to count squares. I'm thinking Bradley's got that 6 range, so I better check out what that looks like. So that was kind of my rationale there.
Yep. So here you're safe. He could potentially go as far as here. I think he can target this square, and then it has like another couple range on it. So you could have gone as far as here, 1 square forward. But we saw that earlier, like with the AoE resistance, it's hard. It's specifically hard on Bradley and Sephiroth and some of these other units that really rely on those AoE attacks. It's very hard for them to one-shot, especially after you have like that barrier up and things like that online.
I don't even want to imagine a CM where we don't have this protection, because I just like the bombs that you could throw at people. Like I really do think short map, Quicken and Keenblade available. What a great rule set to have that AoE resistance.
Yeah, so it's not often that we have both Quicken and CT effects on the table. It's been a while, since we've had this. So generally it's one or the other. So this was kind of unique. I think they did try to counterbalance that with the AoE resist. I think it's done a nice enough job of kind of muting some of these newer units, at least so that there was some counterplay.
So again here, haven't checked any CT.
Right. That was kind of a running theme I saw in all the matches. In this case, it does get you like some turn economy. You can see there that Seymour's turn does come up for you right away. So in this case, even though you didn't check it, it did actually work out for you. So
heck yeah,
that was good. And that's because Bradley had just taken his turn. he doesn't have any affinity right now. He doesn't have any haste online. So you're kind of in the driver's seat right now when it comes to the CT economy game.
I will say, you know, when I was checking the order there for all the different units, what I was looking at was who their next unit was to act, because that's the one that I'm going to charm. Or perhaps maybe the one that can't be targeted by slime. So in this case, you know, Bradley, Slime's going to go next. So if I charm Bradley, Slime will attack the Bradley, and that would be pretty fine for them. But if Bradley was going next, I would want to try to charm him, or I could go to a unit that can't be targeted very easily by their units, which would be Mashery.
No, and I think you played this, you know, as you should have. I think that this was that was a good decision that you made here. You know, always, you know, if you are going to go in and charm somebody, exactly like you said, you want to make sure that somebody's not just going to come right over and knock them right out of it. So in this case, Mashery is not only going to be your highest percentage wise because she's a high faith unit in terms of actually landing that charm, but you know, she's also, like you said, out of Slime's range. I do actually, I forgot to mention one thing here, just kind of going back here to the Keen Blade action. So this placement of Hio and kind of placing him behind the flag here, that's if you're gonna Keen Blade, if you know that you're gonna Keen Blade next with your Seymour, I think that's it might have been better to kind of place him directly behind where Seymour was. So that way he doesn't need to waste one tile of movement moving over to then move forward. You know, he would have been able to, you know, go a little bit further down the map had you taken that position instead.
Man, those little things, they all add up.
They do. I mean, every little tile matters, you know, when you're talking about mobility and movement, and especially when it's compounding over multiple turns. So it can be the difference of being able to land, you know, certain AoEs or certain attacks. And especially in Hio's case, you know, one of his weaknesses is kind of his range in certain situations and some of his range heights. So stuff to always kind of think about.
At that point, I just want to know, what is the percentage on him for later?
Yep, and to anybody that doesn't know, that you see your ailment chances here. You can see this is his charm chance of 73%. He just had the 50% there on Bradley. Obviously, he runs a lower faith. The higher the faith, you know, the better chance you are to kind of land those status effects. So 73%, it's definitely not a guaranteed thing. So you do kind of RNG smiles on you there. You get the key charm there onto Mashery. And we can see here, he could have opted to use one of Slime's attacks here. Like, I'm pretty sure that Slime has some magic attacks that he probably could have landed there to break her out of it. So I'm not sure why he didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of Slime's range. I know it's not very, very far, but...
Let's see, that would have been 3 range there. So you get the Quicken here lined up. Not doing much damage there.
Oh, this is also a match where I accidentally used Veiled Defiance twice instead of Beast's Roar, and that was... I don't think we picked up on that, but I remember as soon as I did it, I'm like, that was just a misclick.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, that's his defense pen isn't online, so that's hurting his damage there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I think it's another situation where he could have walked down and hit his Mashery there.
And that's what I thought he might do.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Mashery's turn is coming up here again. So this time it's not your mistake, Mysidia. We got somebody else we can pick on here. He had a couple chances here, I think, that he potentially could have, you know, knocked his Mashery out of the charm and maybe given himself a little bit better opportunity here to make a play. Especially there, you know, after you've quickened your Hio and you know, basically did chip damage to him at that point.
Yeah, that damage was super disappointing, but I figured you got to start somewhere.
Yep, exactly. So let's see how it plays out. So LB comes out onto Seymour. Does not get the kill. So here you have the 4th member of your team doing some work on the slime. Quicken comes out. So like from the early matches we looked at, I think you've been playing much better here so far. I mean, obviously there's always things you can maybe think about doing differently and maybe optimize a little bit better. But you know, so far, you know, I think this match is being played, you know, pretty well.
Well,
So
I
more
appreciate
damage
that. You know,
onto Hio. No worries.
it's about time I started getting some praise.
Yeah, we can pick on Sagacious here. His turn came up, lightning fast again, even though he doesn't have that haste. And you can see the range there. Just because of the AoE res, though, he doesn't quite have the damage to take anybody out.
And I think what he's doing too is he's running away from his own mashery, like he's trying not to get hit by her.
So this is another, this is the right decision here that you make in terms of confirming the kill on the slime.
It also takes me hopefully out of the range of Bradley, because I believe he's pretty pinned in here.
Not a ton he can do at this point. He's
yeah,
got a,
yeah. So that's
charmed
where I check.
unit, and he's low on health. He can't get to your Minwu here either.
Oh, courage.
Yeah, so Bradley, he can remove re-raise, but he can't remove courage. He doesn't have any follow-up, so...
That pause right there, it took me so long to click. I was waiting for that little preemptive thing to pop up and, tell me I was basically going to die.
So one thing I will say about those recommended abilities, there is, or at least in the past, there has been a bug with those that can make it a very long time for it to pop up, and you can kind of lose some of your time on the clock and sometimes pass your turn because of it. So I stopped using them after that, just in case that ever happens to anybody out there.
Well, that's good to know.
So recharm onto the mashery. Her turn was just about to come up, so that was a good decision by you. Like, she could LB there and obviously maybe potentially even take out at least your Seymour, maybe even your Hio. So that was a good choice.
Right, and like I'm always painfully aware that I'm close to losing a match in any state, so you got to take every precaution.
No turning back now.
And so he sees the writing on the wall there and doesn't want to wait it out. But yeah, I think there was some improvement there. I felt like you were getting a bit more comfortable with your team. Like the opening turn rotation looked a little more clean. Obviously, like I said, there's little movements, little micro decisions that can kind of add up over time that you can always be optimizing and improving. But yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I had for you.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I think I have a few like actionable things here. So for example, counting CT, checking vision cards are two things that automatically I can start adding into my repertoire as I go through my turns. But then all the little things I think is starting to think about, what am I going to do next turn with my next unit? And how does that affect my current turn unit and where they are, where they move, what buff they use? And I do some of that, but I think that on some turns, I don't think forward, and other turns I do. And I think you always got to be looking forward.
And especially when you're using something like Keenblade or you're using a quickener like Minwu, it's even more important in those situations, because the reason why you're using them is because of that next turn and what you can potentially do when you get it. So that's kind of the whole point of it. So the positioning and kind of where you're putting yourself to set yourself up for those moves is vital to the success of you pulling off the combos. But part of that is just kind of getting a feel for it over time. It's not always, at this point, once you get comfortable, it does become more about feel, and that's all part of the experience and repetition. So when you do kind of get some comfort in doing it and get comfort with the units that you're playing with, that certainly plays a part too.
Yeah, totally. And I think if you're ever looking to be super competitive, well, then that means you have to play more manual outside of CM, because you can't spend the first, 4 or 5 days of CM getting used to your team like I did. So I think there's kind of an entry point for everybody, depending on like what level of competition you have. Now hopefully you have some good tips that maybe you hadn't considered that you can use in your own matches.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you kind of bringing me on here and giving me this opportunity. Hopefully the folks out there that are watching, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Hopefully you learned a thing or two from this. Definitely let us know, if this is something that you'd like to see again in the future. We can kind of team up for more of this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to provide like, you know, plenty of highlight or matches that can be critiqued. So that's what I bring to the equation. But I mean, like, let's take a little stock here. Like, okay, I got content, check. I'm going to get better at manual, check. I mean, what do you get out of this?
Hey, I just like hanging out.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for all these videos, and hopefully, yeah, we will do some in the future, but let us know in the comments, and otherwise we'll see you all soon, you know, in some future videos.
See you guys next time.